Julian Assange, for anybody that doesn't know, you only got to Google WikiLeaks, and Julian Assange, look, first myth to get rid of is he's not a hacker. Julian Assange is a journalist. He's a very celebrated journalist under the Clinton administration. He actually had awards for his work, which a lot of that actually avoided a lot of conflict, and especially with false flags. He was able to, with the freedom of information, he was able to dismiss what was basically fake news. Before it was even coined, really, it's really just the efforts of thirsty investment, trying to manipulate a situation. You've got to remember, places like Iran or Venezuela sit on most of the world's oil resources. Yeah. So rather than ask nicely or create a fair trade deal, what has happened is it's been an aggressive progression towards demanding control of those resources. So what has happened is those places have been slapped with sanctions, so much for the whole free trade agreements and all the rest of it. But there's been a considerable amount of espionage and all sorts of things going on. And the Assange WikiLeaks site, how it worked was whistleblowers could, this is from internally. So a notable one was Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning was able to drop the information, and that information then was there easily for people to see, and that information, or the freedom of information, is the basis of a free society or an open society. And so if you don't have the freedom of information, it's really up to journalists or whistleblowers, and a journalist never should disclose his source. He must always protect a sensitive source, even under torture. And
definitely.
We've seen that. We've seen that with when the Saudi lot got a hold of that journalist and cut him to bits. He still did not disclose the source. At the moment, Assange, after holding up for a considerable amount of time, after getting an asylum status in the Ecuadorian embassy, which spurned the UK government to throw out about 100 or so policemen to stand outside just in case he might walk outside it. So, almost like craziness, right? But he held up in there, and it wasn't until the guy sold out and they took him in. And anyway, what he was charged with was skipping bail on a crime that the allegation was of all sorts of things. It was all seedy stuff like rape and stuff like that. None of it's ever manifested. Can't even find the people that supposedly have meant to have laid the charges. The prosecutor that was going to prosecute the charges has withdrawn them, and there's all sorts of. It's just a real mess. And really, the only thing that he got charged with, and to end up in the maximum security prison of Balmoral, was skipping bail, which he got 50 weeks for, which he's well since served, and he's now held without any sort of real charges. And on top of that, during the course of this time, the UN rapporteur, as a duty, came and interviewed him, and this is a guy that he's the rapporteur on torture. So he's gone, and interviewed people that have been waterboarded, under the Biden and Clinton and Obama imposed laws of waterboarding and torturing, and he's interviewed these people. So he knows what torture is, and he said without doubt that Julian Assange is one of the most tortured people of today. And all he is he's a journalist. So what's happened since then is there's a regular hearing, which the last one Julian didn't want to go to because he's concerned for his health, because COVID is all throughout the prison. The people just come and go. Staff in the prison come and go, and a lot of them have got COVID. And all of the people that have COVID in the prison have been shipped into his wing in particular to make sure, with an existing lung condition, that Julian passes away, of course. So now this is an extreme ill treatment of a prisoner. This is something for our very brave new government to, if they recently took to the what they call fake news from the Chinese administration around their allegations about Australia. Look, there's been plenty of allegations thrust back the other way from Australians and from New Zealand and from the Five Eyes Network, and they are just about concentration camps of Muslims, about 1.6 million being held in re-education camps in China, where they're fed beer, which is against the Quran, and they are fed pork, which is against the Quran. So this is pretty extreme stuff. But no one in the world of media, what we call mainstream, can speak about Assange and expect to keep their job. And everybody that has been taken out. So here we are. Here's our new government, and it's been brave enough to stand up against the Chinese. What we think should happen is, just as when Nazi Germany was well into its genocide, and it had its hate speech laws, and it had its illegal to spread false rumour laws, and it had its Führer in place, that whilst in France, where they're making laws where you cannot film the police, which is Article 24, which is moving towards fascistic laws, it is time for New Zealand to really decide what matters. And I think that really our biggest thing that we should uphold our ability to vote in the UN and make those votes count. We are part of all of these things, and the first thing that we should do is apply to give Julian Assange asylum status here in this country, and he be totally guaranteed his safety. And I don't know that we can do that at the moment, but I think that if we can't, then we've got something seriously wrong. And some of these criticisms, in part by the Chinese administration, do stick. But we must, if we are going to avoid some of the aggressions that are being thrown out at the moment towards Iran, these are not primitive people. This is a fully capacious country that can, at will, respond to any aggression that is thrust at it.